We are very excited to welcome our fourth career mentor today, Jason Burns. I'll introduce Jason before we get started. Jason is an artist, manager, producer, president, and CEO of Burnt Tree Art and Entertainment. Jason has worked with East Coast artists, including Jen Grant, Old Man Ludica, Rich O'Coin, and Hey Rosetta, Tim Baker, and currently operates in both Nova Scotia and Ontario. Welcome, Jason.
Hello. Thank you very much.
It is so good to have you here. I have to say, you are living my high school dream.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know what my high school dream was, but I'm not sure that this is it.
No, when I was in high school, I wanted to do, or I had this idea that I wanted to be exactly what you're doing. So I'm super excited for you to talk about your career and your journey and how you got there. And I'm sure that the students are just going to love it.
Well, great. That's actually a good kickoff point for me because I grew up in New Brunswick, in a small town in New Brunswick. And, we didn't really have any access to arts and entertainment. It was a little town in the St. John River. And if I was to pinpoint what sort of opened up my mind to there being a world larger than what I was experiencing, it was the day that my uncle dropped off his record collection to me in the bucket of the family farm tractor.
Wow.
We didn't have, this is before internet and everything like this. So when he dropped this off, I just dove in. I didn't realize that the world of music was that deep, that advanced. We were talking about a lot of world music, a lot of blues, a lot of the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and then into disco era, a lot of 70s, and then into 80s, Elton John, tons of stuff. But what I discovered was in the latest records that we had, everything was tied back. And so I was able to dive in through going to the library and all of this stuff, really nerded out for like 2 years or 3 years, and tied everything back really to roots music, blues music, Black musicians traveling in and inventing the business of touring and all of this stuff. I didn't even comprehend that it was a business at this point. I just so appreciated where it all came from, the artistry of it, the personalities in it, all of this stuff. So got really into that stuff.
And how old were you then? How old were you?
Oh, between like 14, 15 kind of thing.
So the students we're talking to today.
What's that?
The same age as the students we're talking to today.
Yeah, I would like to think that the big difference between, or maybe it's the similarity, is I still have that curiosity. Having the internet provides access to all of this stuff. But if you can imagine yourself, I attribute a lot of this to a man named Alan Lomax. He invented a recording device that was the size, what we would use our cell phones for today, but at that time was the size of a car. And he traveled around and captured the recordings of the very first Black musicians.
Wow.
And from there, if you can find the research, it's pretty available on the internet. That's where the Rolling Stones started off, is those recordings. They gained access to it. They researched, they found something out there in all of whatever world they were living in to grab onto. And everybody knows it. All the kids on here know when you hear something that sparks that magic in your brain, the very individual thing, and where that will take you is the unknown.
Amazing.
Right? So yeah, I experienced that. Graduated high school. I also was very lucky to come from a very entrepreneurial family. I don't think that I was expected to go out and get a job when I graduated. I think I was expected to go and find work. The big difference is that, you understand that you can brush up your resume and work experience and education is extremely important, but kind of being able to have the knack. And when I say the knack for that is like sort of an ingrained entrepreneurial understanding. You'll make your own way, you'll get knocked down, you'll get back up kind of thing. So when I graduated from high school, I went and studied computer science for not even a semester. Then I switched over to business, and I'll be honest, it was mostly because that's where my friends were. That's
Yeah.
where all my friends went. Um, and it was fine. Accounting, marketing, business communications, all the basic programs. I mean, it was school for me. I had a love and hate with school. I was, the best way to put it is that I just sort of thought outside of it. I understood what the education was doing for me, but I kind of looked at it as something that was going to get me to my next step. I just sort of just got through it. Again, not knowing what I wanted to be. I didn't really understand that there was a business in music and arts that I could work in. From there, I did a 2-year business program at New Brunswick Community College, BCC. Graduated, and I was like, I'm lost. I have no idea what I want to do. I really was. And I should say that I at that time, I was a self-taught musician, had never taken music lessons, played guitar as well then as I do now. My fingers are barely calloused enough to strum along, but I was drawn to percussion, drumming, all that. So I was playing in bands. Again, never really, I think that working in the arts, your peripheral of how far it will take you is in relation to how close you are to the fast lane. So what I mean by that is like you guys getting this time with me and hopefully this motivates you a little bit. I didn't have access to that. I didn't know any of that stuff, but now I can say that it wasn't until I moved to Newfoundland to study media communications was when it all sort of opened up. And I was in St. John's, Newfoundland, and it's still a town where everybody is walking around with an acoustic guitar in their hand, going to gig, going to play, kitchen parties. It's all true. It all really happens.
Right.
Lots of parts of Nova Scotia too. And so there I sort of got into a music community and started playing in bands, doing all that stuff, graduated with a further diploma in media communications, which taught me graphic design, video production, photography, journalism. Those are the main ones that I'll say I still use today. So graduated from that, used my skills in Photoshop, After Effects, all of the Adobe suite, and opened up a little graphic design company.
Okay.
Again, just the entrepreneurial spirit. I didn't go for a job. I did a job placement, but then it attracted a few clients. And I did what I thought was pretty good. And I then made the mistake of just thinking I could go to Halifax and continue, business will just grow. The mistake being, in truth, business is all about the clients and the relationship you have, and every job your next job is going to be hopefully better than your last job. But when you go to a new city, it's not like everybody's waiting for you to arrive, right? So I kept playing music. And from there, I applied to the Nova Scotia Tourism had a mentorship program. I'm not sure if they still do.
Okay.
It was fantastic. And it gave me like all the money I could imagine in the whole world in one check, $4,000 to start my new business. And what it did, by going through the process, I learned how to write a business plan, marketing plan. And by working in music, every band or every artist has that guy that understands we need new photos. We have to have a bio or a press write-up or any of these things. And so I was a guy to sort of do that. So fast forwarding through the mentorship program and everything, I managed to sign my first client and become a manager, which was Hey Rosetta, before they had released anything really. And that was kindled through my relationship with Tim from the band, who his band and my band, toured together, became friends. I had disclosed to him, I don't think I want to be a musician. I don't like the lifestyle. It's sleeping on floors and not eating well, and just like the lifestyle is exhausting. And he said, well, we kind of want to do this more, but I don't want to do the other stuff, and nobody's really good at it. And I was like, well, I'll try to do that stuff for you. And it really just took off from there.
Amazing.
And then, just grew my own confidence in what I was going to do. The interesting thing, and I still maintain about working in the arts, is there's no roadmap. It's not like working in sports where you have a season of your sports. It's not that level of entertainment. You have an empty, wide open playing field, and there's no start and end date. There's no clock. There's no anything really to guide you. So what you do is you just assemble as much of your own good ideas as possible and start to get paid for them. And that's what I believe got me to where I am today, is a good foundation of understanding of business, in management, because I had studied accounting. I can talk to all of our accountants and understand where the business is. Hopefully it's in good standing, knock wood. I can understand, I studied journalism, so I know how to, when I graduated from this, I didn't really understand the education that I was gathering. Photography, video editing, graphic design. I wish I had time to do them all myself, because they're all really great avenues of business. But now my role is really overseeing those people who are working. And so the thing that I would like to believe, and I don't believe is overly optimistic, if you have a talent and you gain other education and other skills, the world has changed enough where they can marry together somehow, in some way. And it might not be that career that you ever even knew existed. But I'm willing to bet that there's lots of people and CEOs and all this stuff that have a degree in history. But what they learned in doing history is how to write, how to read, how to research, all extremely valuable skills, maybe how to work with people, how to work with teams, and all of this stuff. So probably my most recent experience through the pandemic, everybody's has changed.
Right.
And I would like to touch on that for a little bit, because my business has changed significantly.
Yeah, no, and we definitely want to look at your COVID lens, because it's been devastating for the artist community, especially in live performance and things like that, in a sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what I will say is, because I understand the business of touring really well, it is the most expensive thing you can do in music. It's not making records. It's not the most expensive thing. So I will say, and this is, again, I don't want to sound blindly optimistic here, but the cream is going to rise in this, and I don't want this to be lost on anybody. The touring, this is why I stopped being a musician. Touring, there's a lot of bad in it, okay? So what I think will remain from this is a greater sensibility of what's healthy for people, for human beings, right? You can arrive at a venue, it will be clean. There will be an expectation that everybody will be healthy, well rested. This was never thought of ever before. And how many times, on busy years, some years I'm managing 300 tour dates in 1 year.
Amazing.
All over the world. And I can guarantee that 90% of those, the artists are showing up tired. Venues aren't adequately equipped. There's not public funding in place. There's all of this stuff. So I think that the nature of my business will remain the same. I think that the players in the business will remain the same. But I think that a large part of it will become hopefully more financially viable for musicians. You guys, I would hope you would never have to go through what piles of people did before you. You're starting off on a clean slate. The business will reopen and be reinvented a little bit. and access to all of the players in the business will be the same. I think that there will just be like a little bit more sensitivity involved in it,
Mhm.
where it's not like the Wild West.
Right, right.
What we've learned in the past year alone is that, and I mean, thankfully, the way that I've operated my business for years is we do employ a lot of women where we can. We give equal opportunity everywhere we can. But that's not to say that the business previous to the pandemic wasn't driven by a lot of bad egos. I think
Mhm.
that that might change a little bit. Again, overly optimistic, but I would like to think that it will, and certainly will would love to offer up anybody in this group today, anybody that has any questions. The business is too complicated to explain the whole thing, but any more questions on how I got into what my real start was, I would happy to provide my email address. And
No, thank you so much. That's great. I have a bazillion questions.
right,
Um,
go
and
ahead.
so if
You tell
you,
me that you have a demo that you'd like me to listen to.
yes, I do have a demo. Maybe after you can listen to
Great.
that. You, when you talked about when you first started with Hey Rosetta,
Yeah.
so in the beginning, where were they at that moment? Had they even released an album? And then how did that transition into you? And I want you to share with the students, winning multiple ECMAs, East Coast Music Awards. So
Oh
how
yeah.
did
Oh yeah.
that happen?
Oh, I wish I was sitting behind a shelf. We've got
Yeah,
trophies
go
plenty.
get them. Go get them.
Right. Unfortunately, they're in Ontario. I should also say that we're back in Nova Scotia. Really happy to be here, but we have a home in Ontario, and that's where I keep my trophies. um, yeah, when Tim and I started scheming, they had released a self-titled EP. It was, you can't find it anywhere.
Okay.
It's it's on CD. Streaming was available in a sense. It was much different at the time. But what was clear was that there was talent on it, and the musicians were hungry to do more. The lifestyle was attractive to them, all that stuff. So I got them a grant from Music Newfoundland. I think that may have changed a little bit. I'm not sure if that funding is still available. That said, the whole nature of recording has changed. You can do what we did 15, 16 years ago in a tiny room.
Hmm.
Anyway, we got some funding for them, recorded an EP, found a record label in Nova Scotia, Sonic Records. From there, went on to plotting tours, applying for more funding. And we really just went for it, with there not being any clear any clear path in this industry. I say this all the time to anybody, and I say focus on your wins
Hmm.
and follow your wins. Follow your wins. There's too many losses in this business to count. Between like your merch that didn't arrive at the venue on time.
Right.
Oh, well, focus on the fact that we can still sell it online. Push it online. Start tweeting it online.
Yeah.
If there's a room full of people that are there to listen to your music, well, look at it as an opportunity for nobody to have to worry about carrying stuff home. They can get it shipped to their home. So push that stuff. Whatever. That's so when we got into the thick of it, we really just focused on songwriting for them, aligned them with producers that were like-minded, and we just started releasing records internationally with US-based labels, German-based labels, Australian-based labels, all over the place, toured all of Europe, Australia a number of times, and then just went into cleaning up with the awards. And so it really never stopped until people grew a little bit older. And the beautiful part of it, I don't look back at this as a bad thing at all. The large core of the band, there was a point where everybody knew it was moved to Toronto or New York or
Hmm.
somewhere like that, because the drive from St. John's, Newfoundland to Toronto
Hmm.
is 50 hours.
Right.
It was just too much. And that's what the decision to kind of go on hiatus was. Nobody wanted to leave Newfoundland. except for Tim. Tim did. And so what was this? How many years ago? 3, 4 years ago now? We announced a hiatus, and shortly after, Tim announced his solo project, which I manage as well. And yeah, so I mean, out of all of the great wins and business success and never really losing money with the band, lots of awards and selling lots of records and all this stuff, the thing that kind of ended it was the fact that nobody wanted to leave the East Coast.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Funny. It's not a public story, so
Okay.
go ahead and share it on your.
Yeah.
No, you can share it on your Twitter and all that stuff if you want to. It's just not an attractive story to the rest of the world.
Right.
Rock and roll band wanted to stay at home.
Yeah. Well, it's really unusual, right? You would think that with a band, that is the goal.
I know. Never was. That's funny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are the goals that you never really look at in earnest until you're at the point. Do you want to move? Do you want to make the big life change?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do lots of things that might be uncomfortable when to date it's really comfortable?
Yeah.
And the thing that we decided we really didn't want to do is just phone it in. I don't really understand what that means, because everybody should be allowed to phone it in. It's really hard out there in everything they do. And I think if the pandemic has showed something in every industry, it's that even the hardest workers have days when they can't work very hard. Mm-hmm. And if that's what phoning it in is, then everybody should phone it in every once in a while.
Absolutely. Can you describe to the students what your average day looks like? Like, what do you do all day?
Oh, these days, spend some time in the barn making frames for my wife's fine art, which she's going to speak to you next. My average day, I check in with everybody involved as much as I can. We have a number of projects. When it's busy, we have I organize everything into projects per client. Projects could be photo shoot upcoming, video, album. Check in on all the projects. With each individual project, you have a different designer, a different video maker, producer, record label, release schedule kind of thing. I am highly organized in my projects generally, and allow for a certain amount of disorganization in each project specifically, because it is the arts, right? We're not making plastic products here. So there's lots of room to move, ideas change, all this stuff. So check in with everybody involved. Communication is extremely important. In pandemic, communication has been extremely hard. People's bandwidth is very narrow. So yeah, I mean, we've loosened up on timelines. We've loosened up on deadlines. People have to be like, I got to postpone a call for this and that. Just moving stuff around all the time.
Right.
But normal worlds, routing a lot of tours, scheduling a lot of travel, Google Maps, no matter how well you know the world, is open all the time. Drive times between Zurich and Berlin or something like that. Frankfurt, scheduling backline to move around drivers.
To get from venue to venue on time for performance, right?
Yeah, looking at financial sheets a lot, making sure that we're on target, hopefully ahead, not losing money. That kind of stuff.
So students can get and for myself to get an actual to understand, to digest the difference that COVID has played. So when you were planning 300 shows a year, I think is what you said. What are you doing these days? Like, what are the numbers?
Oh yeah, okay, good way to specify that question. I think that the word of the year when it's released will be pivot.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I hear it every day. Yeah.
Okay, we pivoted quickly. I think I can say, looking back now, into a lot of online stuff. Mm-hmm. So for all the kids involved, getting to know these type of platforms that we're on right now and understanding the behavior of people and the fatigue of people is extremely important.
Of course.
Yeah, we've pivoted into a lot of online stuff. We did some ticketed stuff for like a ticketed show online, built-in productions that work for that. That's a whole other
It's a whole other business, really.
Whole other business.
Yeah.
So we learned it pretty quickly. And with it, we've had some great success and really annoying failures because it's so new to everybody. So what I'm doing now, I'm coordinating a lot of that. I'm trying to do lots of corporate work, which I would encourage everybody on this to understand that every business that's out there has a need for art and music, entertainment, design, everything. The world's, good business is made up of good people, just like art is. And if you can find a great partnership out there, it doesn't need to be a record label anymore. It doesn't need to be a radio station anymore. It could be the cafe down the street actually has 30,000 followers on something, and their reach is much greater.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe go in and do an acoustic set, do a live stream for them, something like this. So my idea of like how to reach people quickly changed. And yeah, post-pandemic, it's just a lot of online stuff, same as everybody.
That's a great message. I'm going to let the students ask some questions now, and it does take a minute for them to relay the questions to the teachers. So I'm going to keep talking while we wait for that.
That's going to come in chat, right?
Yeah, we'll come through the chat, but I'll read them out when they come in too. You don't have to worry about following that so much.
Okay.
It's a real pleasure to talk to you, Jason. Thank you so much. And what a gift to the students to be able to see you and to connect with you today. I feel like we're doing a CBC interview. I feel like you've done this quite a bit.
Oh, really? I mean, I'm on calls pretty often, and yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to talk to the young folks enough. I miss it so much. I would do it in costume sometimes, but and I sincerely mean it. If there's my contact info should be readily available.
I can pass it along. Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions on stuff, I'm really happy to answer, especially being an East Coaster. I know that it's not right there in front of you, like big and shiny, like it is in Toronto or New York or anything like that. But hopefully my story people can relate to and understand that, you can do a lot of research and looking around from home these days.
Absolutely. Were you ever intimidated? Like when you moved from the East Coast and you say some people didn't want to move and you went to Ontario and you started working there, was it intimidating?
Oh yeah. But by the time I moved, I will say there's nothing wrong with staying in East Coast. The reasons that I moved there were not because the pond of the East Coast was ever too small. It really was just a time in my life. My wife and I had decided it was the best for us. So we were getting married, start a family, and all this stuff. And it was a lot of factors involved. But going up there and opening an office, it was not intimidating. It was very exciting.
Okay.
To open up an office at Queen and Spadina, the same entertainment intersection of North America, right there. It was very exciting. I do want to clarify that it was the back room
at Queen and Spadina
of a larger business. It's still nice and everything, but it wasn't like big glass windows, corner office kind of thing. It was, we started off modest, and we still do everything with a lot of record labels that have that facade. But yeah, we retain sort of a more modest front-facing business.
Okay. We do have a question here, and I did touch on it in your introduction, but if you want to expand on what groups you have managed.
Yeah, no problem. I started off with Hey Rosetta from Newfoundland, Rich O'Coin from Halifax, Old Man Ludica from Chester, Plants and Animals from Montreal, Brave Shores from Toronto, Bell Game from Vancouver, Choir is an interesting project that I work with. They're from Toronto. That's some of them.
Some of them, yeah. I feel like you're gonna receive a bunch of demos after this of the upcoming stars. That would be amazing. Yeah, and we're almost out of time. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to share today?
Oh, no, I think just like, again, it's that thing that really struck me when I was young was just listening to music and realizing that the music that I was listening to was certainly not the same as everybody else, but definitely struck a magic chord in me,
Hmm.
and it still does today. It's that same thing that drives me. I'm really lucky to still love music as much as I do, and discovering new music. And sometimes I play stuff for people and they just don't get it, but that doesn't mean that it has any impact on my vision for it or anything like that. Yeah, just find that thing that truly belongs to you and celebrate it. Go for it. Let it guide you.
I saw a quote yesterday, I think it was, that sort of resonates or connects now. It says, music can connect you to everything you want to remember, but at the
Yeah.
same time, to everything you want to forget.
Yeah, that's right. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. So
Well, I'll
thank you.
remember this.
Thank you, Jason. This is amazing. We really appreciate your time. We wish you all the best. And for all the bands that you're connected with and all the independent or individual performers, hope that this all goes away and you get back to business
Yeah.
real soon.
Yeah, we hope to enjoy the slow time for a little bit longer, but come out of it ready to go.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much. Take care. Happy
Okay, you
holidays.
too, bye. Thanks. Same to you.
Bye-bye.